It's one of the highest paying Freedom Performance IMC Northern Sport Mod races in the country, most definitely on the West Coast. We're talking about the Western SportMod Nationals that will take place at Yreka Speedway on July 11th and conclude on the 13th. We've brought in promoter Travis Peery to talk about why they created this event, how he became the new promoter of Yreka Speedway after it was dormant for a season, as well as Travis's racing career. That's coming up next on the Beyond the Flags podcast. But before we get to the interview, make sure wherever you're listening or watching from, you hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. Well, Travis Peery, promoter of Yreka Speedway, man, I got to tell you, 2024 has been pretty good to the Siskiyou County area with racing coming back, first of all, and then some great racing at the facility with some of the changes that you guys have done at that place.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I didn't know what to expect this year. It's been pretty awesome though. Good car counts for the most part. Just great stuff.
Well, and obviously the Western SportMod Nationals, $15,000 to win, great payday to win, but a great payday to start. And sounds like a lot of fast drivers, a lot of good drivers that are going to be coming out your way for that event from July 11th through the 13th.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that. Cam Reimers is coming. Derek Murphy from Colorado is coming. Cole Succo from Iowa. Ryan Peery, Ethan Killingsworth. Good luck beating those two guys. They kind of run the show down here, you know. So it's pretty awesome. I'm excited. We got so many Nevada guys. Well, I don't know about Washington, but you know, like Southern California, Nevada, Oregon. You know, there's some guys from Arizona, New Mexico. It's going to be pretty cool.
Exactly. I'm really looking forward to it as well. And I've never asked you this question, so I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot here. But what was the whole thought process with putting this race on? Was it that we just want a big sport mod race? Was it we want a big IMCA show and it just so happened to be sport mods would be the best one for you guys? How did that whole thing kind of turn out?
Well, the sport mods, like, you know, A-mod racing, not even A-mod, modified racing is like getting car counts is so sketchy in the Northwest, you know. It's, you know, like Medford had like don't quote me on this, but like a 5,000 win race and they had like 16 cars. So that's kind of a turnoff to put on a huge or modified race, you know. So the sport mods are the thing that's on the West Coast. They're striving, and you have to treat the guys who support you. You got to give them the show. You know, if we had A-mod car counts like we do sport mod or car counts, it'd be a different story, but we don't. You know, fortunately for the Rich and Nicky Bean Memorial Race, we had a great car count, but we still only had 38 cars. So to put on a race like we're going to do 15,000 win, you need 80 cars. So, and then you just got to do what you got to do. You know, as a promoter now, you got to think of things totally different than being a racer, you know?
Well, and then speaking of that 80 car count, last time I checked, which was maybe a couple months ago, like it was close to 60 cars. Is it near that 80 mark still, or how's that looking?
A lot of guys have called me and said they're coming, but they just haven't pre-bought or pre-registered, you know? So we actually have about 49 or 50 pre-entered, you know? Mm-hmm. So I'm still a little nervous because the A main purse is $45,000. Okay. So I'm starting to like get a little nervous, but I know they're going to come, but there's still that thought that means like, well, I opened my mouth and now I have to do it, you know? So,
yes.
But regardless how many cars show up, we're going to pay the money. If we have to go to the bank and borrow some money or not, we will pay the money. And like, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to get, you know, 80 cars.
Well, maybe there's somebody listening to this that wants to go, or they're thinking about going. Do they just send the track Facebook page a message, or they can directly message you on Facebook?
Yeah, you can directly message me, or you can go on the YrekaSpeedway.com and pre-enter that way. There's a little link there on the website, you know. But, you know, it's easier probably just to message me or text me, or my number's blasted on everything, so they can pretty much get a hold of me pretty easily, you know.
Well, and I got to say, for some people that maybe they raced Yreka in the past, right? And they're like, oh, man, I didn't really like that track. It was too narrow or this or that. I got to say that this is the most different Yreka that I've ever seen out of all the different configurations. And obviously that's what you see there, but you've did a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well to make improvements at the facility.
Yeah, when we first signed the contract, we brought out a D8 cat, and we had a grader out there, and we pushed out turn one. So the entry of turn one's like 70 feet wide, and we pushed out turn four, so the exit isn't such like a paper clip, you know. So it's a lot different. It races. It's a small track, but it races really big, you know. So it's a lot different than it used to be. It has a wall down the back, all the way around 1 and 2, and down the back straightaway. And I actually Sunday went out there and extended the wall into 3 by 10 more blocks of cement. So it's another 30, 35 feet in the wall, you know. So it's a lot safer than it used to be. You don't have the big steep drop-offs off the backside, you know, so you just have a wall all the way around it now. But it just races so much better, you know.
Well, and it, like you said, races so much better. There's been some fun shows there this year. You mentioned Ryan Peery, you mentioned Ethan Killingsworth, Jordan Broughton, Matt Sanders, Fred Riley.
Oh, yeah.
Some guys that have been, it's like tooth and nail, but good, clean racing because they got room to race with.
Yep. Like the way I look at it is, you give racers a track to race on, they're not going to tear up their equipment trying to get all wild and crazy and pass where there's no room. We've, like, knock on wood, but we've only had a few dented up quarter panels, and, you know, that's it. Like, our tow truck guy, like, falls asleep in the infield now. And, you know, knock on wood, now that I say that, it's like he's busy next week.
Yeah.
But, no, that's the way you got to do it. As a track prep guy, you got to give the racers a place to race, or they're not going to put on a show, you know?
Well, and for the weekend, for the SportMod Nationals, do you guys have any sort of, like, activities that folks can do, like a cornhole tournament or a barbecue or anything, or is it pretty much we're just focusing on getting this event off the ground and we're just worried about the racing at this point?
Well, we were going to do a cornhole tournament, but that turned out to be a little bit more, like, I don't know, there's nobody there to supervise it, and we're just kind of shorthanded on that, and, you know, and it probably turned out to be a drunk cornhole tournament anyways.
Yeah.
But so what we decided to do was, the local motorcycle shop donated a pit bike, SSR 125. So we're going to have after practice, we're going to have a catering company come in and do tri-tip, and I forgot what else there is. And then we're going to open the beer booth up and do $2 beers, and kind of just, and then we're going to have a DJ come in and play some music. Mm-hmm. So it's just going to be kind of like social time for all the drivers to hang out and BS with anybody. And we're going to give a pit bike away to everybody who comes in the back gate who has a wristband. They get a little ticket, and it goes into a drawing, and so anybody can win it who's at practice. So it's like a $1,600 pit bike. So, you know, that's cool, and it's just going to be a cool, you know, it's going to be cooler at night because it's going to be 105 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So wait until the sun goes down, and it should be just a nice social time for everybody just to hang out and chill out and have a tri-tip dinner, you know. So the cater company is really known as a barbecue place in Lassen County. So they're just going to come in and do enough for like 300 people, tri-tips, mm-hmm. and hopefully, and it's a free dinner. You know, you come to practice, you get a free dinner. So we just want to do something back for the racers because it is expensive to come to this event, you know. So something little, you know.
That's super cool. Just, you know, something to kind of get you all relaxed, get you settled in, because it's going to be a crazy 3 days after that. So.
Oh, for sure. People are calling this, which we'll see how it works out, but like the West Coast Super Nationals for sport mods, you know, but without the stripper poles and strippers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I was going to say, like, what's really cool about your racetrack too is you're your relationship with your sponsors and marketing partners, and one of them notably is Shenanigans. It's, a wonderful restaurant that's open late after the races. They have the replay playing in the dining area afterwards, and I assume they're going to be loaded for bear too that whole weekend.
Yeah, I haven't talked to them per se yet to give them a heads up, but thank you for reminding me that. I'll call them tomorrow, and I'm sure they'll be open at least the Thursday and the Friday night after the races. Anyways, the Saturday night, I know everybody just wants to get out of town and get back to the motel or get paid. And I know, like with tech, we're gonna, like, for that much money being up, there's gonna be a pretty extensive tech, for the top 4, top 5. So that'll take some time.
Sure. Yeah, it's just super cool. Something that I'm looking forward to seeing, and no doubt that it's obviously, there's always room for improvement, but it's already off to a great start.
Yes. I'm excited. I'm like, when I first took the contract over, it's like, we're coming up with all these big races. It's like, we're going to go big because that's what people want. That's how you get people at your racetrack,
Mm-hmm.
So go big or go home. And I just want Yreka to be known as the place to be, So that's my goal. Is I want to put on the biggest shows, the best shows, and kind of like Fred Brownfield used to do. That's the place to be.
Well, so. And what's a beautiful thing that you've done with Yreka is you've literally brought it back from the dead. One thing led to another, and 2023 there was no racing at Yreka, 0 zip nada, and it was a possibility that there would never be racing there again. And then you were able to, I mean, obviously we'll have you explain the story, but you basically get the contract and have went, like the easiest thing in the world would just be, we're just going to take baby steps. We're not going to do anything too extravagant. We just want to get the ball rolling. Instead, you've took what I think a lot of people wouldn't do, and that's no disrespect to them, is like you said, go big or go home.
Yeah. Yep. So do you want to hear the story about how it all went down?
Oh, absolutely. The listeners are invested now. They're on the hook.
All right. So
we may have to change names and places, just for protective reasons. But
there we go. So, like, everybody knows, last year I prepped Medford's racetrack, and so before, like, the fair in Yreka is like the first week in August. So before that happened, everybody thinks different, but this is how it is. So I already told Medford, the Southern Speedway, that in July that I wasn't going to prep the track next year. So they had all this time to prep to get another guy or get somebody out there for me to train or something, And then me and my son Ryan went to the fair, and we just kind of wanted to see what was going on with the racetrack. So we walked up into the stadium, and it was half bulldozed. Mm-hmm. Like, literally all the front straightaways out of it. Half the corners were bulldozed. The back straightaway was bulldozed so they can get trucks up into the infield. And I was like, man, we can't let this place just die because, after in the state facility in California, if something sits for more than a couple of years, the state can come in and do whatever they want with it, So what the rumor was, and it's from a good sources, if it sat for one more year, they were going to bulldoze the track and make RV parking out of the whole facility out there and just keep it for rodeos and concerts and stuff, So, like me at the time, I worked for Jason Finley. He is the president of the fair board. And so I was like Monday morning, I called him. I was like, hey, what's it going to take to put in a bid on this place or something? Me and my son and my sister are kind of interested in maybe reopening it. And he's all, let me make a phone call. So I called Cliff Munson, the CEO. The next thing you know, I have a meeting with him, and we went in, and they had to put it out for bid by law.
Yeah.
But I know a couple other people put in bids on it, but it was pretty much a done deal when I said I wanted to do it, So they awarded me the contract, and next thing I know, we have equipment out there, and we're putting that place back together. And then we were just kind of thinking, like, we went to promoters workshop, and I had this great idea or wild idea of the night before Speed Week, and to go ahead and, put on this big A-Mod race, because A-Mod, or not, let me rephrase that. Super Dave got on me for this. Modified racing, modified racing in the Northwest is super the car counts are hit or miss, So only time to put on a big a big modified race is when they're all going to be there already. So that's why I decided to do the prelude to Speed Week, because we're already going to have all of the modified guys there, and it turned out really good. We had like 80 cars or 82 cars or something for 3 classes. And then when Speed Week started, we had 90, so it was a good deal. And then so Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, I just had this crazy idea. It's about when Barry Braun came out with all these 100,000 win races all over the country. And so I called Barry and I was like, so what's the ticket? How do you make money of this? So he kind of told me how he makes money at all this. And so I got this wild idea. It's only going to be 10,000 win sport mod race. Then after it went down for a couple weeks and I started talking about it on Facebook or whatever, Jason Finley called me up. He's all, hey, if you make it 15,000 to win, I'll kick you down $2,500. I was like, done. So we just started blowing it up. And then I started getting negative feedback, how it's 15,000 win, only 500 to start. And so I was like, you know what? Like, we're like, to get the cars I want, let's make it 1,000 to start. So it goes like the top 5 pay money, then from 6 back is 1,000 to start. So if you're from 6th to 20th, you're going to get $1,000. I know it kind of looks with that much money, but it's still a $45,000 purse.
Are you looking to find that adrenaline rush, but you can't because you're not at the racetrack? Well, check out the IMCA TV Replay subscription library to have access to thousands of hours of racing for just $24.99 a month. Relive all the moments of the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's at Boone Speedway, the Harris Clash at Deer Creek Speedway in Spring Valley, Minnesota, the IMCA TV Winter Nationals at Cocopah Speedway in Somerton, Arizona, Florida's Clash on the Coast, and dozens of Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program racetracks from across the nation, as well as the IMCA TV Dirtcast podcast. Plus, 25% of that $24.99 monthly fee goes towards the Drivers Point Fund and is a great way to help out your local racers. In 2023, over $97,000 was paid out to IMCA drivers directly at over 50 racetracks across the country. Please note that live broadcasts are not part of the replay subscription. That's IMCA TV. IMCA TV, where America comes to watch racing. It's pretty dang good compared to even a big 360 or 410 sprint car race on the West Coast. That's some pretty big coin. Yeah,
and I'm starting to get a little nervous about everything.
Sure.
I'm like, oh man. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, you and I, we've known each other for a long time, for about 20 years.
Yes.
And I mean, you as a promoter, would you ever have thought that ever be a possibility of a hat that you would wear?
Never. I'm a racer, I'm not a promoter.
Sure.
But, I'm just having fun. This is probably the most fun I've ever had. Yes, there's a lot of stress in it, but we got the right people in there to do it right. Our shows are fast. Our shows are good. And yeah, we pay them good money, but we get a good outcome out of it, So the money's there to take care of our guys, and we do, and it's been pretty awesome.
I think one of the first times I talked to you had to have been '04 or something. So I was just starting announcing, and I don't think I talked to you. I think I might have talked to your dad or somebody, and who's driving? You were 6 back in those days. Who's in the 6? Travis Peery. Okay, where's he from? Yreka. I'm like, is that on the coast, or is because at the time I didn't know my California geography, so I got it mixed up with Yreka and Yreka, which there's two. There are racetracks at those two places. So
yeah, asphalt and dirt.
Asphalt and dirt. And then I remember I was saying, okay, what kind of chassis? And it was it's a car. And I'm like, I'll never forget this. It stood out. I'm like, well, of course it's a car. What kind of chassis is it? It's a car. It's a car chassis. And I'm like, gosh, this guy's getting smart with me. I'm like, so CAR? No, CAR. You don't know who Joe Carr is? I'm like, oh my God. Okay. All right. Okay. So, and now since then I've learned, okay, I know who Joe Carr is. So
yeah. Goofy little short guy with short fingers and he's always in the magazines.
Yeah. And then what's cool about your story is pre-IMCA days, you guys race, you came to Cottage Grove a number of times, and then, Speed
Yep.
Week came through, and then all of a sudden you were off to North Dakota, and I felt like out there you relocated to like the Williston area for work, and
Yep.
and for a couple years, and then you came back and you were taking care of business. Not to say that you were slow or anything before, but like you just got to be exposed to a different breed of cat for so long out there on some of those big wide tracks.
Yes. Like, it's a whole different ball game back then. I was like, I won my share of races out here in my championships or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We were always really good at Medford and Yreka, but never, really won too much outside of there, but, Susanville or whatever, But when I went back there, I thought I was just going to go back and clean house. Well, that was like, I got my ass kicked for 4 years before I actually got better,
Mm-hmm.
And then when I come back here, it was a little less competition. Not saying the guys aren't good out here, because you still had the Dem Benedetti, the Nick Trenchard, and they were like, Nick Trenchard was just starting to come into his main part of his career, but John D was always good. And then I just drove by John D, and he was like, holy crap,
Sure.
But it is a whole different ball game, and it was probably, there was good times and bad times back there, but it made me who I am today, and met a lot of people and still friends with a lot of them back there. And the racing is the biggest thing I miss back there. Is just, it's just a different ball game. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring to Yreka also, is what I learned back there. And when I was down in the Midwest, Missouri and Kansas and, stuff like that. And just being at Humboldt, Kansas for a couple of weeks, I just learned how to do track prep by helping, the guy there. And it was a good deal. So.
Well, and I just remember it was like 2014, 2015. It seemed like the tour was really taken off. It was fully IMCA sanctioned since 13. Yep. And then you came out, Troy Heupel came out, Joey Price came out from Montana, Heupel obviously from the Williston area. And,
yep.
And it just seemed like it really opened my eyes to just the broadness of IMCA, where growing up pre-IMCA, and I'm not saying that this was the worst time ever. It was just a different time where you would just be localized. Like Elma would have their big race, and for the most part, it was just Northwest guys. You go to the Lawn Skinner, they'd get some of the hitters from California, but it was a lot of guys on the West Coast and stuff. And then all of a sudden, now we're having all sorts of guys come, the Gaylords from Colorado, and just everybody coming out of the woodwork, and that really opened. And I remember you were a guy that I would see, is it IMCA sanctioned? If it's IMCA sanctioned, I'll come all the way from Williston to race Yakima or Grays Harbor. And I always was like, man, why is this? And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot at stake if it's an IMCA race or not, because of the regional points, the national points, all that stuff that you can benefit from going to a set of races that are sanctioned.
It's like more than that too. Like when you go to an IMCA track and you have an IMCA card, you're going to get a fair shake. Mm-hmm. If you take a car to a non-section event, you don't know what's there.
Sure.
Like it could be like some dude that has an 8-inch spoiler and big old American Racer tires or something. So that's why a lot of guys just that's why I like IMCA, is because what you're up against when you show up, and with the crate motor, and it's just equalize the playing field, and it's more of setup and driver and stuff like that now, instead of more horsepower when back in the day when we grew up, and cut our teeth. It's all about muddy tracks and big horsepower.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, you think about this, like there was a time, it's hard to believe now, but there was a time where, yes, Elma, Cottage Grove, Medford, they ran modifieds on a regular basis, but the rules didn't mesh up. That didn't happen really until like 2011 with the invention of the Wild West Speed Week. I mean, beyond that, like you'd have spec tires, or like the engine setback, or the firewall had to be at a different place. Mm-hmm. And like in order to run, it was a big task to do.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad everybody got on the same page, with IMCA, and now it just opened up everything. Now we're getting 90 cars at Speed Week.
Sure.
So, and I remember the very first Speed Week, like it's 2011, and like I was only going to do Yreka and Medford, And then it's just me and my sister, and we didn't have no clothes with us or anything. And we rolled up to Cottage Grove late, and I ran second to Jesse Williamson, and Dustin Katie got third. I just remember that, and that's kind of where it all started, was that year with, all that stuff.
Everybody qualified, double heat, fast timer starts on the pole, inside, front row of heat 1, and then the second heat goes to the back, and sometimes the guy that was the slowest, through his fault or not his fault, he was going to be starting up front. So that caused for some definitely interesting stuff, especially at Old Willamette too, with the configuration.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I remember that place. I remember Bolio knocked the rear clip off his car in the guardrail, and I was running second behind Brian Papa, and I spun out with like 2 to go. But that's the most mud they ever seen on the place because it rained or something goofy, but yeah, that's the only time I ever got to race the Old Willamette track. Yeah. That was pretty badass.
Yeah, and I've never asked you this question, like, what got you into racing? Obviously, modifieds, I've always seen you in a modified, but, like, how did that whole story start?
So, I guess, like, when my parents moved to Yreka, I was, like, a couple weeks old, and, like, Donnie Bottoms.
Yeah. Had a 95 car, I think.
He had the Batman car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like number 1 Batman car or whatever. But he, back in the day before that, he pitted for Tom Minnie, which is Dan Minnie's brother.
Okay.
So that's how he got. So when Tom Minnie retired, Donnie bought Tom's car. Well, before that, like I was like, my mom said I was like 2 months old. They brought me into Yreka, and my bedroom was right next door to Donnie Bottom's garage. Mm-hmm. Well, it was like kind of like a party place for all the racers. And they always had race cars in there. And my mom said they'd fire those race cars up at, 11, 12 at night. Mom was so worried that it was going to wake me up, but I just slept right on through it.
Okay.
So right then she knew she was in trouble, she said. So ever since then, she said if she wanted to know where I was, she just went out the door and looked over in their garage. And even when I was in diapers, I was over in their garage working on race cars.
Crazy.
So I, that was all the way up until I was 17 years old. And then my dad bought me my own modified, and from then on just was in the modified division. And back then we were IMCA. Mm-hmm. So my first IMCA win was in 98. Wait, maybe it was 99. It must have been 99. And I won 2 in a row, the last 2 of the season. And it was against Lenny Toolman and Pudge Toolman and Steve Cheffy and all those guys, And I was like 18 years old.
Crazy.
So it was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then I remember all of a sudden you had to switch gears a little bit because Ryan and Blake, your sons, they got cage karts, and you guys would occasionally come up to Cottage Grove and race those and everything. I mean, how did that change your whole outlook as a racer, of being not just a racer, but being a racer's dad?
I knew Ryan was going to be he was going to be a racer because he was really similar to me. Like, he was pushing tires around in diapers, and he just always wanted to be with me. So I worked for the Minis, and we lived in the house at the ranch, and it was like maybe 100 yards above the shop. So, like, my ex-wife, Ryan would just disappear. Well, he walked his little butt in diapers all the way down the shop barefoot just to be at the race shop with me.
Yeah.
And then he'd be down there crying because he had go-heads at his feet.
Oh, yeah.
So then when Ryan turned like 7 or whatever, I bought Jeffrey Hudson's go-kart. Mm-hmm. And it was Jeffrey's from Jeff, and that was his first go-kart. And then we got him going, and after the first night, I was like, yeah, you either got it or you don't. Sure. That kid was, he was racing against Carly Holmes and Gabe Nelson and all that stuff, and Ryan just went out, and his second night in a kart just put it to him, before his second night ever in a go-kart, So right then I kind of knew, and then all of a sudden everybody's saying we're cheating and this and that, and it was a field Subaru. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But same thing, different deal, But, and then, we did that for 2 years, and we went to North Dakota, and Ryan didn't race nothing until we moved back from North Dakota. So I made him wait until he was 16 before we put him in the sport mod, just because financial reasons. And I think it's good just like to make them wait a little bit, So
Sure. Well, it's been great to catch up and to tell the Travis Peery story and the Yreka Speedway story, the new chapter for that facility. I know that you've got a lot of great people that make all this happen, a lot of great sponsors and stuff, and I'd just like to give you the floor for just a second as we wrap up to thank any individual people or any individual sponsors for making this event coming up possible, as well as the season.
Yeah, man, I just couldn't do it without my sister. This is a partnership deal, but she's the one behind the scenes taking care of paying everybody and running the beer booth and the concessions and lining people up for all that stuff. And just she loves racing just as much as I do. This is where we grew up, and we love it. And we just some of the sponsors that come aboard. I can't remember everybody, but Monty Bischoff and his storage
Best Homes
company.
Best Home Storage.
Yeah. Yep. I'm so bad with names, but he came on, really good this year. Paradise Painting, Doug Anschutz, I don't know, just everybody. Easy Janitorial. They take care of all the bathrooms and the bleachers and cleaning all that stuff for us, as part of their sponsorship for Victory Lane. Just so many people out there, Doug Franklin, Connor Franklin's dad. He came in with a cat and everything, helped me move all that dirt. And it wouldn't be where it was today without that, And the fair board and the Siskiyou Golden Fair has just totally bent over backwards to make this all possible. Putting up a permanent fence so we don't have to take a fence out anymore. And I would have never took a track over if that wasn't going to happen, So just makes it a lot easier. And there's a million other people out there, all the workers and my mom and my Aunt Debbie at the back gate and my dad. And it's just it's just a big family deal, and it's great. So can't thank everybody enough.
Awesome. Well, really looking forward to the Western SportMod Nationals coming up July 11th through the 13th at Yreka Speedway.
Yeah, and I just want to tell everybody, you think this year is going to be it's good, just wait until next year. It's going to be way badass. So
well, race fans, that does it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it. And we hope that you continue to enjoy these upcoming interviews. We appreciate it if you would like and subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever it's at. Give us a like and give us a subscription so that we can deliver more of these great interviews to you for your listening pleasure. In the meantime, wherever we're at, wherever you're listening, we hope you have a great rest of your day and a pleasant evening, and we will see you soon here at Highside Racing Promotions.